Go. Good. I got my AOA mask here to be sure you're all protected. We're going to take it off just a second and get going. My name is Dan Fowler. I'm president of the Apartment Owners Association of California. We're one of the largest individually organized groups of apartment owners in the state. And we're here to represent you today and to get you to join in together so together we can stop this nonsense that's taking place in the housing industry right now. I was talking to a member this week. He was an 80-year-old man. His wife needed to be put into a home to be taken care of on a daily basis. And he said, Dan, I'm embarrassed. I don't have the money to put her into the home. He says, I have a house and I want to sell it. It'll give me plenty of money to take care of her, but he has a tenant in there. And you know what? The politicians have bought that tenant's vote by making it impossible to get the tenant out of there so he could sell his house. He says, I can't sell it. He could sell it okay for half of what it's really worth, but that's what the politicians have delivered to that tenant who lives in that house. I was also talking to somebody else. Well, there's another lady several months ago. She had bought a house, a 4-bedroom house. And she said, well, she sold everything. I believe her husband had passed on. And so she put all of her money together, bought this large 4-bedroom. So why is she buying such a large house? Well, because she's going to rent out 3 bedrooms. And that's what she did. She rented 3 bedrooms out to 3 different guys. And they were paying the rent and everything is going fine. Her living expenses were taken care of. Then they found out they didn't have to pay rent. They found out that the politician says, you vote for me and I'll give you free rent. And they all 3 stopped paying rent to this lady, to this widow, who needed the money to live, just to live on it. And that's what the politicians have delivered to them. I was watching TV, and you've seen the riots, you've seen the buildings being burnt down and the thieves going in and stealing stuff from the stores. But the sad part about it is that you've also seen some protesters cheering and clapping when the American flag is being burned and those thieves are going into the building. Oh, they're not doing it. They're not stealing anything, but they're cheering these people on, which is just as bad. And I got to thinking, you know what? That reminds me of the tenant groups that are out there organizing, asking for free rent. Yeah, they're clapping and cheering. The politicians on. The politicians have taken place of the looters. And guess where the politicians is looting? He's looting you, folks. He's looting all of us, taking our property that we sacrificed for, that we gave up weekends in Hawaii and new cars so that we could provide housing for others. Now they're stealing it from us. They're as bad as those thieves. They're just as unethical and immoral as those thieves burning down the buildings and breaking into the stores and taking off with all the goods. You know, it doesn't matter whether rent control is right or wrong to these people. It destroys housing. You and I know that. It causes prices to go sky high, causes a scarcity when they put in rent control. People stay in the building. New people can't move in. And so it causes a real problem there. And the chances to stop this, we have a chance to stop part of this that's going on right now. Proposition 21 is coming up. There's no vacancy decontrol. Yeah, you're going to lose your vacancy decontrol. That tenant that's renting an apartment for $800 a month now, and it's really worth $2,000 a month. If we let this proposition, and we're going to stop it, okay? You're going to stop it. If I can get you to cooperate today, we're going to stop this thing, and we are going to beat this guy who heads up the AIDS Foundation and is trying to control housing in our state. He failed 2 years ago on Prop 10. We beat him then. We'll beat him again this time if you guys will cooperate and join in together to help us stop it. No vacancy decontrol. That's what they're going to take away from you. They're going to take away your rights. Also, it covers homes. Tell your neighbors, don't vote for this thing. This bill covers homes depending upon how title is held. Okay? So some homes won't be covered. And this is the worst thing that I can hear somebody say to me, and that is, well, it won't affect me. He's coming after you next, folks. He's coming after everybody in the state as far as housing goes. and he wants to take it. He's a socialist as far as I'm concerned. He sure looks like it. He wants to redistribute your property. He wants to redistribute that property and take it away from you. Well, we'll beat him this time. We beat him last time if you'll join in and help. And here's how we can do it. Number one, we're going to, all you people who have donated in the past and who will donate today, we're going to send you a sign. Now last year we passed these things out and got them out in a lot of yards because we could have seminars. People would come to the seminars, pick up their signs. Can't do that this year because of the virus. So we're going to have to mail these things out, and that's going to, oh goodness, it's going to quadruple the price of these signs getting to you in the mail. But we're going to get them out. We're going to win this thing, and we're going to get these signs out in the yard, and hopefully a sign in every one of your yards who are listening right now. You need to put one of these things in there, and you'll get it in the mail if you have donated to AOA, Political Action Committee, to help us pay for these things that are going out. To back up just a little bit, I have 4 steps that I'd like to ask you to take to help us today. Step number 1 is to sign the petition. Go to the AOA website, aoausa.com/petition. Sign the petition. We have almost 90,000 signatures on the one petition. I'd like to see 100,000, wouldn't you? 100,000 signatures, and the governor will see that and say, whoa, there's 100,000 more people who are going to want to get me out of office and impeach me and sign these petitions that are going around right now. Send a copy of a letter. Here's up on the screen, you've seen the address, the Honorable Gavin Newsom. The address is given there. Write it down, okay? Write that address down. Send a copy of this petition, and you can do that on the computer. Send a copy of the petition to the governor. Also send him a letter. Write him a letter and tell him your situation. Tell him what's happened to you. The 80-year-old guy, tell your story. Get it out there. Tell him how bad now you're being affected by this thing that's taking place. So that's number 1. You want to sign the petition. Go to the AOA website. Get the signatures out there. Number 2, we're going to include bumper stickers. Now this says no on Prop 10. We're getting new ones printed up, of course, and it's going to say no on Prop 21, okay? And so you're going to get that, a bumper sticker. It'll be in the magazine this month. When you get your magazine, look for the bumper sticker. Now, if the mailman has taken it out of there and thrown it away, or if it happens to fall out and you can't find it, email us and ask us for a bumper sticker, or send a check in if you haven't donated already and ask for a bumper sticker to be mailed to you in the mail, and we'll mail one out in case you can't find one in the magazine. That project alone is about a $25,000, $35,000 project, and it needs to be paid for. Somebody told me that thing was upside down. I think the people who want the rent control are the people who are upside down. They're the ones that are all messed up and trying to do this. Number 3 that we're asking you to do, and I've showed you the Prop 10 sign that'll go in your yard. And all of you people who have donated money to the Political Action Committee will receive one of these in the mail. You say, Dan, that's kind of expensive. Yes, it is. Advertising is expensive. And advertising can work and help us win this thing if we'll all cooperate and do it. But you'll get one of these in the mail if you have donated money to AOA, and you can donate money again today to do it. Now, you may want to send out 100 of these signs. You may want to pay for 100 different other apartment owners and homeowners to put these up in their yard. And if you do, send in a check for $1,500. One check for $15 will help pay to put up one sign and send it out in the mail and package it, which is very, like I say, it's very expensive, but it's the only way that we're going to get these things out. And that is number 3 step. Number 4 step, donate to this cause. Your money, okay, goes where your heart is. Is your heart really in keeping your building? Do you really want to keep it, or do you want it taken away from you? We're looking at one part of the thing that everybody's going for, and that is 20%. You know, when you build new apartments in California, they'll ask you to put away 20% for low-cost housing. Folks, if he wins this time, If he wins this petition and it goes into it, he's going to go further. And they're not going to go for 20% low cost. They're going to go for 20% no cost housing. That's what the tenants are yelling for right now. In other words, you have a 10-unit building? Oh, you got to set aside 2 units and not charge rent. We'll move in some homeless people. You say, Dan, you're being ridiculous. They would never do that to us. You know what? 40 years ago, when we warned people that rent control was going to come, oh, they'll never have rent control in San Jose. They'll never put rent control in Burbank or Glendale. And before they had it in Santa Monica, no, Santa Monica wouldn't have rent control. You're laughing right now if you own a building in Santa Monica, aren't you? And of course, it's not a laugh of joy. It's a laugh of sadness because of what's happened. We were right then, folks, and we sounded ridiculous. I sound ridiculous today when I tell you what they're going after and what they want. Right now, they're discussing bills to keep you from evicting people from your building. And they're discussing that. You say, oh, there's going to be a lot of evictions hit the court. Don't believe it, folks. Don't believe it. They'll stop it, and they'll make you continue. They'll continue to steal your apartment building and take your rent. Donate today. The money's going to go to the lawsuits, yard signs, bumper stickers, mailers. We'll also be cooperating with another group of owners out there to stop this proposition from going through. Now you have another proposition that needs to be stopped also. And people will tell me, I'll tell them about this other proposition 15, and what'll they say? Oh, Dan, that wouldn't affect me. I have an apartment building. I don't have a commercial building. I don't have to worry about that. Oh, I get so angry when I hear that, when I hear somebody say that to me. They're going to tax the commercial buildings, and then after they do that, who do you think they're going to come after? They're going to come after you after they get that completed. Oh, well, we're taxing these other properties. Why should it's not fair not to tax apartments? So folks, get out there and work to stop it. We have a speaker who's going to tell you more about that right now, and I want to turn it over to my son, Jeff Fowler, and he's going to be introducing our next speaker for you. Send your donations in, folks. This stuff costs money. Donate today. Write it today. Don't wait till next week. Don't wait until payday. Don't wait until the rent comes in. Do it today and get your, and folks, every owner out there ought to be putting in a minimum of $1,000. They say, Dan, I don't have $1,000. Well, you'll have a whole lot less if this thing passes. So let's join together. Let's get this thing done. Thank you for putting up with me during this period of time. Jeff, take it over.
Thanks. Yeah, you know, he's been right about a lot of different things. I remember he told me that people used to laugh at him when bread was 65 cents a loaf, and he told people it was going to go to $1, and it's obviously a lot more than $1 right now. And anyway, so excited to have our speaker today. And all these things that we're doing, most of the time, it's for AOA members, and we do it live, it's free, and then we tuck it behind our membership application. But this time, again, this is one of these that it's for the whole industry. We really want everybody to have this information. And so with this one, it's going to be out. It's going to stay accessible to the general public. And this is brought to you by Livable. They're the sponsor today. And they have incredible smart utility billing software, and it will save you money. They do analytics as well. And you're really going to want to talk to these guys. Daniel with Livable, sharp guys. They've been in business for 11 years. And if you mention AOA, by the way, it's free. Their services are free for you for the whole rest of this year. And if that's not enough motivation, today there's also another deal, and that's they're going to give a $50 gift certificate, a Visa gift card, to the 7th caller after we finish the webinar today. So if you have any interest at all, if you happen to not see the last level, actually they did a presentation for us, so you can go back and look at that if you're an AOA member. And anyway, so go ahead, be sure you give them a call, and you'll see their phone number and everything across there. But their phone number is 650-720-5466. But don't call them until after the seminar is over if you want that $50 gift card, if you want the chance of winning that $50 Visa gift card. So thanks to Livable once again. And I just want to introduce our association as well. And I don't know if you know it, but most apartment owners associations, they do charge per unit, and we don't charge anything per unit. It's low cost, and there's a lot of things that we offer for you. And I mentioned the videos. We have a whole video page, a resource there for you. We have advising. So when you don't know what you can do in your specific city, you can give us a call, and we have advisors that are there, and they will help you. They'll get you the right resources or give you a couple options, and they're great. And we have local offices from San Diego all the way up to Alameda, and we're there where you can walk in right now. We're going to wait a little bit until COVID calms down. And along with that, we have free forms, and so everything from checklists to rental applications, lease agreements, so many different resources up there. We definitely want to use those things, and we keep them updated, and they're current for you. We have the tenant screening. We've been doing this for 4 decades, tenant screening, and we have the right combination, the right mix of technology, and the right products that we've put together for you. And the people who start using it, they don't go to another product because they're happy with it. They see the reliability, they see how comprehensive it is, and just one thing would be even double whammy eviction searches that we do. No one else in the industry does it, but we want you to make sure that you see all the information, and we know that if you just see one report, it may not show all the information that's there. So we put 2 different reports, 2 different companies. We put it together, and that's the double whammy. That's just one thing that we have with the tenant screening. And we have the magazine. Dan mentioned that there's going to be a bumper sticker in there. If you're a member, you get the magazine every month. If you're not a member, sometimes you get it. It'll be hit and miss. And we also have an insurance program, apartment insurance, workers' comp, all different types of insurance that will relate to you. Just call us at the office, and we can take care of you with that. And we have a brokerage service, and these guys are salty. Guys and gals are salty. They've been around for a long time. And one thing that we offer for members is a free property valuation, so you can take advantage of that whether you use one of our agents or not. We have the debt reporting service as well, and that is available for you for pre-COVID. If you have anything pre-COVID up to 7 years, those things can be reported. And what we do is we work with a collections agency, and they also work with the 3 credit bureaus, and we get that reported on the tenant that skipped out and didn't pay their rent. We get that reported to the 3 credit bureaus, so it goes up on their credit, and your chance of recovering your money is a little bit better. And they do also take that to collections after a 120-day period. If you get it before that, it's all yours. So that's something that's there, available for you. And another thing that we know that collecting rent is another thing that people have been pivoting away from taking cash and checks and wanting to go contactless. So we have PayRent, which is a partner of ours. They do a tremendous job, and you can find out about them if you go to our website. And then we also have the Political Action Committee, like Dan mentioned. And with all these things, our goal is to make landlording easier for you, make it more enjoyable. If there's any way that we can save you money or help you make more money, that's what we want to do. And because we know that it is an investment for you. And anyway, we're here for you. Thank you so much for letting me take time for that. And now I get to introduce our speaker. He's the president of the Howard Jarvis Taxpayers Association. They have an office in Los Angeles as well as in Sacramento. And can you believe they have over 200,000 members, which is incredible. It was founded by the late Howard Jarvis, the author of Proposition 13. And they are here. The Howard Jarvis Taxpayers Association name is synonymous with tax relief, and they have an uncompromising defense of California homeowners and your rights. So they're there and they're working for you. And so it's really our pleasure to have this organization on the live stream today. And our specific speaker today, he did work with Pacific Legal Foundation for 9 years in tax issues and political law before starting to work with Howard Jarvis. Did that for 9 years, started back in 1982. Incredibly sharp guy. We do have a video from Pacific Legal Foundation as well. And so that's another video that you'll want to take a look at. That one is accessible to everybody as well. And in 1991, he started with Howard Jarvis, and he is a recognized expert in California fiscal affairs. He's argued numerous tax cases in courts. He has tremendous experience. He's won at the Supreme Court level when he fought for the validity of Proposition 62, which is the right to vote on local taxes. And aren't we all glad that we have that right today? And he's successfully defended Prop 140 in the California Supreme Court. And Prop 140, it sets term limits. And he's a principal drafter of Proposition 218. That's the Right to Vote on Taxes Act. And that was passed successfully back in 1996. Successful campaign against Proposition 88, which was a statewide parcel tax, and defeated Proposition 1A in 2009. The list goes on and on. He's got a lot of accomplishments, a lot of notches on his belt. He's the chairman of the Howard Jarvis Taxpayers Foundation as well, and so you do have an opportunity to give to them. And what that money goes to is to funding for taxpayers' rights litigation, as well as educational studies for people. And he writes a weekly column. He's a frequent guest on TV shows and radio programs, and he's our guest today. It's my honor and pleasure to introduce to you John Kopal.
Okay, let me, if somebody can give me a thumbs up if the audio is okay, that will make sure that that everybody can hear what's going on. Is that, can you hear me okay? Give me a thumbs up if that's an okay. Okay, I'm going to assume that's the case. Well, thank you, Jeff. I'm John Kopal, president of the Howard Jarvis Taxpayers Association. We are California's largest tax advocacy organization, and I'm here principally to talk about the split roll initiative. First of all, the fact that you're watching this right now suggests that you want more information about what is going on politically and what is going on in Sacramento that may affect your rights as a landlord. So yeah, we've got the thumbs up. So thank you, Jeff. That's good. So I wanted to go through some of the political machinations going on right now. First of all, the stuff that you're probably reading that's going on in Sacramento is driving you nuts. They're talking about raising even more taxes. I want to put this in context. California already has the highest income tax rate in America, 13.3%. We have the highest state sales tax rate in America.
This one's making noise again.
Okay. I'm getting some, I'm sorry, I'm getting some background conversation. Sorry about that.
Guys, this is making noise again.
All right.
Yeah.
Let me stop. Let me stop for a moment because I'm getting some background conversation. So I don't know. But at any rate, as I started to say, California has some of the highest taxes in the nation, highest income tax rate in America, highest state sales tax rate in America, highest gas tax, highest corporate tax west of the Mississippi. So California already bears a very, very high tax burden. And when you add onto that all the regulations that impact you and all businesses in California, you understand why California is ranked dead last as a place to do business in the United States. How has that manifested itself? A lot of people are, in fact, moving out of the state of California. In fact, California may, in fact, be on track to actually lose population and lose one member of the House of Representatives. So this is a bad demographic. One of the few good things about the state of California? One of the few good things is Proposition 13, enacted in 1978 to control runaway property taxes. Prop 13 took an average property tax rate in California of 2.6% and reduced it to 1%. So there's more than a 50% reduction in the tax rate. But just as important, and important for this discussion, is the fact that Proposition 13 also limited the annual increases in the value, the taxable value, that the assessor would apply to your property. So let's imagine this. You've got a piece of property, you've got a fourplex, and you bought it for $500,000, and it's taxed on that $500,000 value. But what happens if the value of that tax doubles the next year to $1 million, the value of the property? Do your property taxes double? Under the old system, of course, they would. But Proposition 13 limits the annual increases in taxable value to 2%. Property is reassessed to full market value when it changes hands. So if you sell that fourplex, then the purchaser is taxed on the full market value of the purchase price, but still has the benefit of that 1% rate cap. And the reality is Proposition 13 has worked remarkably well for California. It has provided stability and predictability, not just for homeowners, but for businesses as well. And it has also provided a stable source of revenue for local governments. Even during recessionary times, because of the way Proposition 13 works, it acts like a shock absorber on property tax revenue. So if you were to talk to your county assessors, they would tell you that if it weren't for Proposition 13, that their ability to predict tax liability would be put at risk. So what is the split roll? Many of you may have heard of this thing called split roll. It's not a pastry. It's a reference to the tax rolls. In every state in the United States, the assessors or some equal official keeps a roll of all the property and the taxes on that property. Now, in other states, sometimes they tax property differently according to the use of that property, but not in California. In California, all property is treated the same, and we like it that way. It makes for clarity, it makes for predictability, it gives everybody the same, it lets everybody operate under the same rules. One of the things that you're going to hear about from the proponents of Proposition 13 is that somehow Proposition 13 created a loophole for businesses. It's not true. California has had a unified tax roll ever since the 1800s. Prop 13, enacted in 1978, did not change that. We like, as Californians, everybody operating under the same rules. Well, this split roll proposal, what would it do? It would take away that one aspect of Proposition 13 that I just talked about, that limitation on the annual increases in taxable value for commercial and industrial property. Now, the first thing you're going to wonder is, are apartments covered under that? I'm going to talk about that in a moment. But understand this, when you tax commercial and industrial property more, who pays that? The proponents will talk about, well, we have to go over after Disney Corporation. They're worth billions, and their property hasn't been reassessed for decades. We have to go after Chevron Corporation because their property hasn't been reassessed in decades. Here's the reality. Both Disney and Chevron have their property constantly reassessed, not the underlying land, that is protected under Proposition 13, but anytime there are new improvements, new capital improvements to property, the value of that improvement will be reassessed according to its market value. Some of you already know this. If you have an apartment building and you want to add on to a unit, something that takes a building permit, you will get a knock on the door from the assessors. They will They'll let you keep Prop 13 under your original property, but they will add a tax based on the current value of the improvement. So commercial property is constantly reassessed. So this notion that they're escaping taxation is silly. Now, your concern is, does this Prop 15, and that's what it's called. Please remember this. We are fighting Proposition 15. It is the split roll initiative. We are defending Proposition 13, enacted in 1978. Proposition 15 is a weakening and partial repeal of Proposition 13 and would constitute a $12 billion a year tax hike. And again, that's going to be on commercial and industrial property. So my organization, as many of you know, many of you are members. We have many members who are apartment owners. And if those of you who are members, we appreciate it, appreciate your financial support. And you know very well that we're out there protecting Proposition 13. But most of our members are homeowners. So you may wonder, well, what do homeowners care about whether or not some industrial and commercial property are going to be subject to higher taxes? It's very important to us for two major reasons. Number one, homeowners are also consumers. They're citizen taxpayers. What happens when a business has to pay higher taxes? What do they do with that additional tax liability? They pass it along to their customers. So if you go to a Costco or a Walmart or even a small business and they have to pay a higher tax, that tax liability is going to be passed along to you as a consumer. The other thing you're going to hear is it's just big business. The property has to be worth $3 million for this particular proposal to kick in. That is patently untrue. It's not. The $3 million threshold is not on the value of the property. It's the total property holdings of that property owner. So if somebody owns 5 pieces of property, but their total is over $3 million, then they're triggered. So it does impact small businesses as well. And if you're a small business person, you know very well that the industry standard for your lease with your landlord is what is called a triple net lease, meaning the tax liability will immediately flow down to you as the tenant, right? If you're renting a commercial property in a strip mall for your offices, then that tax liability will be passed immediately on to you. So the proponents of split roll will go on breathlessly about Chevron Corporation and big corporations. But who's really hurt? I'll tell you who's hurt. It's Manny's Muffler Shop and Susie's Alterations and a host of other small businesses. This is one of the reasons that the National Federation of Independent Business, the lead spokesperson for small business in America, as well as in California, is vehemently opposed to this. And they are strong allies of the Howard Jarvis Taxpayers Association in opposing split roll. But here's a second reason why homeowners are deathly afraid of split roll. The proponents of split roll have made it clear that coming after commercial and industrial properties is just the first step in the complete dismantling of Proposition 13. So who's next? If they get commercial and industrial property, they get higher property taxes on those properties. You know who they're after next. They're after apartments next. And in fact, they've made that argument clear. They've said that we're going to go after commercial and industrial warehouses, big box stores. Then we're going to come after apartments, and then we'll come after homeowners. They have openly admitted this, that is their long-term agenda for the complete dismantling of Proposition 13. And Benjamin Franklin, one of our founding fathers, said, we either hang together or we hang separately. And my members as homeowners know that we all, as property owners, we need to stand together with the industrial community, with the big corporate interests, with the small business, with the apartment owners, because as long as we present a united front against this runaway socialism, that we can defeat this. So that is my presentation on Proposition 15. I'm going to talk about the rent control in a moment. But let me emphasize that Prop 15 is a dagger pointed at your heart as an apartment owner, even though they will tell you that apartments aren't covered. One of the questions I get is, gee, John, California is becoming very much more progressive. Do we stand a chance of beating this? Yes, we do. I actually am, and I don't want to build too much confidence. I really don't. But I would rather be where we are than where the proponents are. We have built a broad-based coalition of not just the business and industrial, not just the apartments, not just homeowners, but the farming community. The proponents of Prop 15 have said, but we exempt ag land. We exempt ag land, so farmers are going to be okay. No, farmers are not okay. Farmers have a ton of their property in capital improvements like packing facilities, all their infrastructure. All of that will be subject to Proposition 15. So the California Farm Bureau is incensed at this split roll proposal because it will mean higher costs for farmers, which means higher costs for food. So the Farm Bureau is on our side. Think about this. Wineries. Wineries are a big deal up here in Northern California. Yeah, they might exempt the vineyards, but what about the bottling facilities, the storage, everything that would all be subject to the split roll initiative. So people are, again, asked, how's the campaign going? We have a very broad-based coalition. I think it's over 2,000 2,000 organizations and a host of elected leaders who oppose this, including many Democrats. We have some of the social justice organizations opposed to this because they know it means higher cost of food for their members. This is why the NAACP opposes split roll. That is why Democrat politicians as famous as Willie Brown oppose Proposition 13. This is why many Democrats oppose Proposition 13. Oh, and there's another group that opposes Proposition 13. The people who are charged with administrating property taxes, the county assessors, have come out as an organization against Proposition 13, against Proposition 15. Many of them are not fans of Proposition 13. In fact, one assessor up here in Northern California, Larry Stone, very smart guy, he does not like Prop 13, but he hates Prop 15 even more. Because what he said about Proposition 15 is this. He said Proposition 15 would not just be difficult to implement, it would be impossible to implement. He does not have the deputy assessors to go around and reassess all this commercial property. So the implementation issues have caused the California Association of Assessing Officials to oppose Proposition 15, and that is an organization that normally doesn't even get involved in politics because of the problems with implementation. So, look, Prop 15 just doesn't make sense. But the first question you have to ask yourself is, does California need higher taxes? As I said at the beginning of this presentation, California already has the highest income tax rate, highest state sales tax rate, highest gas tax, and even with Proposition 13, we're in the top half of all states in per capita property tax collections. We don't need more taxes. Does this mean we're anti-education? Does this mean we're anti-local government? No. But as taxpayers, we demand that the money that we give to government is spent more wisely. The money we give them right now is not spent wisely. Let me give you an example of some encouraging news here. And that is, some of you may be aware that for the LA Unified School District, they had a parcel tax last election cycle, something called Measure EE. It was a very large parcel tax. Now, the city of Los Angeles is not conservative. It's very progressive. And this was a parcel tax for schools. People love schools. And yet they needed a 2/3 vote for Measure EE, and they did not even get 50%. Why? Because people are anti-education? No, because voters in Los Angeles and voters in California now realize that we are not getting value for our tax dollars. That is why we are seeing this huge resurgent resistance against this ever-growing thirst for more tax dollars. In other words, we're onto their game. Who are the proponents of Proposition 15? The usual suspects of all the public sector labor organizations. They want more money because they want more pay and benefits. At the end of the day, that's what this is about. It's not about higher levels of government service. It's about funding special interests, and that means public sector labor organizations. So again, we're not anti-bureaucrat, but public bureaucrats in California are some of the highest paid already in the United States, and we don't need to go further. And we're punishing ordinary homeowners, we're punishing small business, and we're already punishing apartment owners. So I want to thank you for your involvement in the AOA. It's a great group. I've known Dan for a long time, and Dan's been great, and he's been a strong ally of the Howard Jarvis Taxpayers Association, and I appreciate that. And so if you want more information, we have a lot of information on our campaign against split roll. Go to our website at hjta.org and follow the link. Get more information. Download some of the flyers we have against Proposition 15. And please, if you're so moved, contribute to our campaign against it. What do we plan to do against Proposition 15? First of all, the major corporate communities are fighting.
Turn it off.
Oh, you did? Okay, so
And we're going to be doing a host of radio ads starting in September, and so you'll be hearing from the Howard Jarvis Taxpayers Association a lot during the election season. So we've got a very deep radio campaign prepared, and we look forward to you hearing our ads, and we look forward to your involvement in fighting Proposition 15. And I think, Jeff, can I just now turn it over to you or open it up for questions? How do you want to handle this?
Great. Thank you so much, John. And that was awesome. So many quotes there that I wrote down. I love that one about the Prop 15 as a dagger pointed at the heart of the apartment owners, or I can't remember how you said it, but
yes.
True. But yeah, so right now, this is an open time for everybody to ask questions. And if you're on the AOA website and viewing this, at the bottom right corner of the screen, there's a blue help button. Click on the blue help button and submit your question there. And I will get that question, and then I'll be able to ask about that. And yeah, I was curious I thought it was really important what you said about people are realizing that we're just not getting the value for our tax dollars. And I think that's just such a key point. And it's just it's really logical. Hey, like, we want to help people. It's not that we don't have a compassionate heart, but when so much is being spent and so little is being done, it really we need to call people to accountability.
I think that's true, Jeff. And for example, we see, I think people, when they open up the newspaper, they see all this waste, fraud, and abuse, whether it's investigations by reporters, whether it's an investigation by the state auditor. The state auditors come out with a number of damaging reports about how state money is being spent. And if people I don't want to increase people's blood pressure, but if you really want to get angry, we just published our annual Follow the Money report. It is a report of a collection of waste, fraud, and abuse in California government. You might want to sit down if you read it because you're going to be upset. But there are little things. I mean, right now the Governor Newsom's talking about, we got to raise taxes. And we come back and we say, what about the high-speed rail project? High-speed rail project is a monumental waste of money. Every single international transportation expert says it will never be built. And yet we're spending about $1 million a day on the biggest boondoggle on the face of the planet. And I think when people see that, they say, we want proof that you're spending our money wisely. And another example, of course, was the increase in the gas tax. Remember, it was promised that you increase the gas tax. We have the highest gas tax in America. We're going to fix all the roads. Well, they're doing some road repair, but they're also wasting a lot of it on these pet projects having nothing to do with road repair or bridge repair. So again, I think if people are just now, if they haven't already, are starting to wake up. And for people who are naturally conservative, they already know this, but we need to reach out. And that's something that people who are watching this can help us with. And that is reach out to your neighbors who may not be politically involved, may even be liberal, but just say, look, if you're liberal and you want more government programs, wouldn't it be good to make sure that the government programs we have already are being well run? Mm-hmm. Shouldn't we have more oversight over some of these programs? So there are ways to talk to people who aren't conservative like we are in ways that resonate with them. And again, Measure EE was a perfect example of this. That was overwhelmingly a Democrat vote. This is a nonpartisan issue. Government efficiency and transparency is nonpartisan, and that's the message we need to hit going forward.
Absolutely. Without transparency, it just breeds corruption. It's like no sun and how mold just develops there, right?
Right.
So there are some questions starting to come in. So this is good. This is from Athenia. Won't those tenants paying NNN have to raise prices or downsize because of the exponential hike in their payment? So that's her question.
For the tenants, or if split roll is found to apply to apartments, well, let me clarify something here. There is an exemption for apartments in this particular proposal, but as I said, they're going to come after apartments next. But also there's some ambiguity as to mixed use property. What about ground level retail with lofts above it? We don't trust the legislature to define that in a way that's beneficial to homeowners. But yes, as landlords know, any additional cost that they have to assume will be passed on to their tenants, assuming that their tenants are now under a legal obligation to pay rent. I mean, these anti-eviction notices or laws are very troubling. I believe that most landlords are more than willing to work with their tenants for the tenants who are struggling because of the pandemic. I don't know of a single landlord who's just dying to kick out tenants who are paying their rent on time. That's not the way, apartment owners are good business people. 99% of them are. And I know that, we rent this office. And I had the owner of this building come to me and you'd ask if we're okay. Are you guys okay? And had I said, we're struggling too, he probably would have cut us a deal. Now, fortunately, because of the strength of our members, we're not struggling. And he was happy to hear that. But there were other tenants in this building that may have asked him for a break. And knowing the guy, I think he would have accommodated them. So I don't see why government has to get involved in that.
Right.
In that relationship between the tenant and the landlord, and that's true with commercial property as well, particularly with commercial property, because most business people on both ends are fairly sophisticated and know how to negotiate. So that's I guess I'm not sure that is completely responsive to Athenia, but if not, feel free to ask a follow-up question.
Right. I think there's a fatal assumption there is that all apartment owners are evil and are going to raise the rent and kick people out. And you just look at the simple facts. It's just not the case, is it?
No, it's not. And I know many landlords who, when they have a good tenant that they're friends with, they've got no problem with charging them below market rates, because to get a quality tenant is such a joy. You don't have to worry about your property. So that's always a good thing.
Right. And you touched on it just a little bit, but this question, it's still a good question. What are what are the provisions of Prop 10 that are problems for us as apartment owners or rental property owners?
Yeah, that was a question about Prop 10, which is the rent control. Now, what people need to understand is rent control is coming back in Proposition 21, and it is very similar to Prop 10. Now, the good news is we were part of the coalition to fight Prop 10, and we beat it fairly handily. But that is, as I'm glad this is a good transition question, this is a repeal of Costa-Hawkins, which allows more modern apartments to charge market rates. And we beat it once, we beat Prop 10, and I'm hopeful that we will beat rent control again in November. Rent control makes no sense. It results in outcomes exactly opposite of what the proponents claim it will do. It results in fewer apartments to rent, and it results in lower quality units because landlords don't have the incentive to improve. So rent control has never really been a good public policy. And as New York City shows in Santa Monica, but again, this is a statewide proposition. We beat it once, and I'm hopeful it will be beaten again. And I'm hoping the question was about rent control. I'm not sure it was because they mentioned Prop 10. We beat Prop 10. That's dead, but it's come back, kind of like these movies like Terminator or other superhero movies where you think the bad guy is dead, and they come out of the ashes at the very end, and you have to kill him again. That's kind of like rent control. He's going to come out of the ashes again. We'll have to kill it many times.
Nice analogy. And yeah, I think that's a good point. She mentioned Prop 15, confusing it with 21. So I think just making that clarification, 21 is the one about rent control. 15 is about the split roll tax, property tax, and that being reassessed. So that we got that distinction. Hopefully we got that cleared out.
Yeah, the people need to look at their ballot pamphlets very carefully and do their studying beforehand. I'm a little nervous about this all mailed ballot that California is going to be doing. All registered voters will be getting a mailed ballot, and as President Trump has suggested, that does open up the opportunity for fraud. It won't create a whole lot of new fraud in other states. It might in California, not because of mail ballots, but because our voter registration rolls are not purged periodically, which means there's going to be a ton of blank ballots floating out there. So that's a different issue. But one thing people should know about the Howard Jarvis Taxpayers Association is that voter integrity is a big deal for us too. So we want to maintain voter integrity. We want people to vote. Everybody who is a citizen, registered voter, absolutely go out and vote. But one of the advantages of the vote by mail is it gives people the opportunity to study before stepping into the voting booth. So there'll be lots of information. Again, go to our website and look at voices that you trust. You trust AOA, hopefully you trust HJTA, and there are other good resources out there. And we will have recommendations before the ballots are mailed out.
Right, and on that topic, there's a lot of our members, they're maybe in their 70s, and then the other half of our members are younger generation, and there's kind of been a disconnect. I was talking to one lady this week whose parents they came from Cuba, and she talked about just everything that happened there, and she's like, oh man, it's happening here. I can't believe it. We left that and now it's happening here. And there's kind of a disconnect, and people don't really see that the water's heating up, and that eventually they're trying to boil the frog eventually. And so there's such a influence, being able to influence people is so key. And a lot of people don't, a lot of our members, they express, hey, I don't really feel, they're like, what are the talking points and how do I communicate this? And so I know that you guys have some resources. And so could you tell us about some of those resources so that, like, let's say I have a son that might be voting a certain way that he's going to vote himself out of a larger part of his paycheck and, all this. So what kind of resources can I put in their hands so it's not maybe me saying it, but hey, why don't you look at some of the facts here? What do you have for us?
But for young people, particularly college students, college Republicans is a good group because they study the issues, and unlike the people on the other side, they're not reflexively socialist. You and I spoke earlier about the video, the very funny and sad video of the young person, the 17 or 18-year-old, opening up his first paycheck and seeing all the things that were taken out of it in taxes. That's a wake-up call for young people. I think young people today, they don't trust big business, but they also don't trust government. So one of the things I would recommend is tap into their natural distrust of government. Not that all government's bad, we need government, but say, big government, a government that's big enough to give you everything you want is big enough to take away everything you have. That's a good statement for young people, because if they see government overreach, they can react negatively. In the context of this election, we have one-page flyers, particularly on Proposition 15. It's a one-page flyer with the talking points. It's very helpful. It gives people, the proponents are talking about Chevron Corporation, but I see here that I'm going to have to pay more for gasoline, or I'm going to have to pay more when I go to Costco or the shopping mall or wherever because prices are going up. And the other thing is this. We haven't even talked about this yet. The cost of living in California. Cost of living in California is sky high. If young people ever want to dream of buying a home, tell them it's going to be very hard for you to buy a home in California. But look at your friends who have moved to Texas. They can buy a home, a 2,000 square foot home, for $180,000. Can you do that? No, you live in California, so you need to vote against all these examples of government overreach in the state of California.
That's great. Athenia, she wrote back and she said, oops, my question that he is answering was about NNN, i.e. commercial tenants who pay the property tax as part of their rent. So maybe this is related to, so I'll let you.
The triple nets, the triple nets, they flow right down. So if she's renting an office or she's renting a space in small business and she signed a triple net lease, if this passes, she can expect the higher bill. You can expect the letter or the email from the landlord saying, my taxes just went up 82%. You have to pay. So small business people really have to be cognizant of that.
Great, thank you. And Joe has a question here. Does the 3 million threshold apply to only one's business property, or does it include personal property too, i.e. the primary residence?
It wouldn't apply to the personal, it wouldn't apply to the home as long as the homeowner's exemption were claimed for that property. The 3 million is not on an individual property basis. It is a total of the ownership interest of that property owner. So as I said, what if you've got someone who owns four small strip malls or 3 small strip malls, none of which is over $3 million, but in total is over 3 million, then they would be hit. But here's where the assessors come in. The assessors look at that and they say, wait a minute, I'm going to have to determine what the ownership interests are of this individual. And what if the property owner owns 2 of those strip malls outright, but he owns a third in an LLC with 7 other people? am I going to have to look at the ownership interests of him and the other 6 people? And what about their interests? Am I now going to have to? Am I going to be going on a wild goose chase trying to figure out who owns all this commercial property? This is why the county assessors hate this proposal so much. As Larry Stone said, county assessor of Santa Clara County, it's not just difficult to implement, it's impossible. So and then if it's impossible, what happens? Well, it goes to the building behind me, which is the California Capitol, and politicians will decide how to implement it. And so my question to your viewers is, how much do you trust the California legislature?
And just practically, I did hear you testify on C-SPAN in Sacramento, and you said that how many additional assessors, like would the force have to be multiplied by 3 or something to be able to handle the?
Yeah, you'd have to talk to the Assessors Association, and they're scared to death about. You're in LA, you can give Jeffrey Prang a call and say, so how many deputy assessors are you going to have to hire? But that's not their biggest fear. That's not their biggest fear. Assessing commercial property is a lot harder and takes a greater skill set than assessing single-family residential homes, because assessing single-family residential homes is pretty much you look at the purchase price. There are several ways to assess commercial property, and some of the methods are very, very complex. And so some of these deputy assessors who specialize in commercial property have developed a good skill set. But guess what happens if this passes? All these deputy assessors are going to be hired by the private sector to help them with assessment appeals trying to get their values lowered. So all the deputy assessors who specialize in commercial property are going to be hijacked by the private sector because they can pay more. And so this is what has the County Assessors Association so concerned.
Right. So there's really even a feasibility issue with this beyond all just the regular implications of the triple net lease and the cost of living going up and the fact that they're going to go after apartment owners next. And so Andrew, he asked this question. I know Dan touched on it, but I'll just ask it again. My question is on Prop 15. What are the problems with Prop 15 that make it bad for rental property owners like myself?
Well, cost of living, number one, as an apartment owner, you contract with a number of vendors for your repairs, for your maintenance. They're in business. Chances are that their businesses are run out of commercial property, right? And if their cost goes up, what happens to your costs? Those will go up. Also, if the cost of living goes up for tenants, what does that say about their ability to pay rents? Mm-hmm. Are they going to be able to continue to afford to pay the rent in your apartment building, or are they going to have to look for a cheaper place, a place that's not as good as what they're renting now? So it's going to impact the tenants, it's going to impact the apartment owners, it's going to impact the vendors. Again, all because cost of living. You cannot take $12 billion out of the California economy every year and transfer it to the public sector unions and expect that the private sector is still going to be as viable as it was before.
Right. And here, Linda, how do we fight language that's on the ballot? And, it's so disingenuous. It's outright lies about what a certain proposition really is. They hide things in there. And so is there any recourse for that? She's asking.
There is. In fact, we sued the Attorney General a couple of days ago over the title and summary. We got a minor change, but we did not get the full change we wanted. There's going to be some developments later today that I can't really talk about our further legal recourse. We're talking with our lawyers. But here's the reality. The Attorney General has a fiduciary obligation to provide California voters with fair and impartial language about what an initiative really does. Our Attorney General has failed miserably on this.
Yeah.
And every single editorial board in California has recognized this, not just conservative papers, but even the LA Times a couple of days ago, or even yesterday, had an article about how the Attorney General, Xavier Becerra, has failed to provide California voters with impartial information. John Diaz, who is the head editorial writer with the San Francisco Chronicle, a very progressive paper, has likewise says Becerra has fallen down at the job. So we need one way or another to get recourse out of the courts. And if we can't, that's going to make things a little bit harder. I still think we can get the word out. But ultimately, we have to take the job of preparing the title and summary and the ballot label away from the Attorney General and give it to the legislative analyst. The legislative analyst is a far more fair arbiter of what goes on of these labels and fiscal analysis. I haven't always agreed with the legislative analyst, but whoever has served in that office has been pretty called balls and strikes. Called balls and strikes. If you're a Dodger fan and the Giants are in town and the umpire gets behind the plate and he's wearing a Giants cap, what does that tell you? You know, the umpires need to be neutral arbiters of the truth, and that's what the Attorney General is supposed to do in California, and he doesn't, and people are very angry about that.
Okay, here's Maria asking about Prop 21. This is a good question. How's Prop 21 different from current statewide rent control?
It is significantly more generous to tenants. It is a repeal of the Costa-Hawkins, so local jurisdictions will be free to increase rents. My understanding of the statewide rent control that was passed was that there is a fairly generous cap. I don't know what it is, Jeff. Maybe is it 10% or something like that? But this would allow local governments to impose significantly more strict rent control laws than is allowed under the deal that was cut the last time around. So remember when Prop 10 failed, there was a deal cut, and then some apartment groups acquiesced in some statewide. I thought that was not a wise tactical move. That's just
that wasn't us.
That wasn't you guys, but there were some other groups. And look, you got to stop feeding the alligators, because the theory about if you start feeding the alligators, pretty soon they're going to get so big that when you run out of food, they're going to come after you next. So that's the alligator theory of appeasement. You just can't give these guys an inch, because they'll take a mile.
Great. And can you tell us how do we access that educational material that you have?
You go to the website at www.hjta.org, or you can send an email to info at hjta info at hjta.org. And say, I need information. I need handouts. I need more information, and we'll get in touch with you, and we'll make sure that you get the information. We're going to have for bona fide organizations, we're going to have lawn signs available throughout every single major metropolitan area. We'll have central collection points. So if you want a No on 15 lawn sign, we will have those available, probably starting in just a couple weeks, if not sooner.
Great. Well, Athenia asked one more time, is he saying that this is an aggregate of ownership value, not per parcel?
That is exactly correct.
And she says, yikes.
Yikes. Yikes is right. Yikes is right. And in fact, I think that's the one part of the argument that we won on before the judge, was that we objected to the $3 million threshold, because the way it was presented made it sound like it was $3 million for that particular property, and it's not. It's the ownership interest.
Wow. Okay. Okay. And anyway, thank you so much. And we're done with the questions. So appreciate you and how you're fighting for all of us across the board. And really, whether people think they're on the opposite side or not, they're really fighting for everybody, because if we can keep prices down and keep the government or help the government become more efficient through accountability, then at the end of the day, everybody wins. And so such a worthy cause to give to. Just want to say that it's been said many times before, but freedom's not free. And we're not asking you to lay your life down, but we are asking you to donate to Howard Jarvis Taxpayers Foundation, and to the AOA Political Action Committee. We're not making money on it. We're just trying to empower you at a grassroots level to influence people. And the lawn sign is for influence. Those one-page sheets that you talked about, that's to give you talking points and to help you influence people. And so we'll end with that. And I do want to ask our viewers, if you can click the subscribe button with YouTube there, that'll help with the broadcast for us. And again, thank you. And we will see you next time.
Thanks. Good work.
Thank
Thanks.
you.
Take care.